case, it is just past noon in beautiful downtown Grand Bend.
We were just out here on the wet coast. Well, I wish it was wet, but anyway, yeah, just a quarter after 9-ish.
Hmm. So you're still bright-eyed and bushy-tailed.
Maybe yes to one and no to the other.
Okay. I have a new sophisticated production slide to show you. Are you ready? Ready?
Yeah.
This is for all our viewers. The people listening on the podcast will describe it after.
Oh,
Oh,
bring her in.
the technology doesn't want to show it, but here it is. Whoa. Anyway, this is the things that we can. God, that's amazing. I can't keep. People are wondering how CGI works. We haven't got that down, have we?
Either that or the
Look, I
AI.
can just. Anyway,
Perhaps we should be using some of that chat AGP or whatever it's called. Maybe it'll
I
help
don't
us.
know. It's clear that this particular production in upgrade isn't working.
Well, for every new bit of technology, there's always a glitch.
I'm, I'm sorry. For those who are listening on Spotify, I had a clipboard with the sort of the things we were going to chat about in geological. That's geography and logical connected together. It's a new word, geological. So we're going to talk about North America, Europe, economies, and other stuff, or rather other news. But the green screen system doesn't allow me to show that. We're,
Yeah, that's okay.
we're being tracked here by technology.
Well, either that or we've really had some annoying parts dabbled with the artificial intelligence people.
Well, yeah. Anyway, to get to the heart of the matter, flyby news, as you call it, from here, a quick rundown on the today's headlines, which you keep everybody amused for at least a week because we come on every Friday. So we
Or
so thereabouts.
thereabouts. Yeah.
So the top news headlines are that America's darkest secret is sex trafficking, child abuse, and the Biden administration. There are apparently 85,000 children still believed to be missing because of trafficking. So that's one thing that is on the thing. Did you know that cruise ships emit more toxic fumes than all of Europe's cars?
Mm.
Yet nobody seems to be going after cruise ships. Let's see. The French gun control has failed because they had riots last week across the country. Lots of people had weapons, even though they have one of the toughest gun controls in the world. Greta Thunberg has been arrested by the Swedish police because she was in a climate protest and apparently got out of hand a little bit. So one of the heroes of the climate change uh, cult, so to speak. Oh, maybe I shouldn't call it that. Anyway, she's been detained by the Swedish police in her own country. The UK is in talks with Russia. Oh, sorry, UK talks tough on war with Russia because they'd like to go to war with Russia, while admitting they don't have enough tanks to do it with. But that's interesting. The UK talks tough on war while admitting it's dangerous to live on tanks. Just 40 tanks and around a dozen frigates and destroyers ready to go to war, which is the lowest military figures for the UK in recent times. Um, then what else is interesting? In the UK again, there's been a crackdown on cannabis farms. Looks like someone's trying to avoid paying money,
Ooh,
because
surprise.
yeah, 1,000 people arrested nearly, and according to this report, nearly 200,000 cannabis plants with an estimated street value of 115 to 130 million pounds, along with 20 firearms and 636,000 pounds in cash. and surprise, surprise, 26 kilograms of cocaine. Now that's interesting that they could find all this cocaine and cannabis farms.
Well, it's not surprising, I guess, in one respect, because if you want to find something, you can put the resources and the funds to find it. If you don't want to find something, you just put it on a shelf and hope it goes away.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of finding things, the French police can now secretly activate your phone cameras, microphones, and GPS to spy on you. This is part of a deal they've made with the phone companies. Now, isn't that lovely? So much for that. You know, if you think your phone, best to pull the battery out of your phone, and otherwise they're going to find you anywhere, anyhow. So isn't that lovely with all the secrecy that they kept telling us was built into this. What else? This is a great morning for this. Let's see. This uh, they've discovered in the U.S. that actually the various statistics on payrolls and employment and so forth actually is not as high as they claimed it to be, and they've had to adjust the last number of months downward because the optimistic reports on the economy, well, weren't that optimistic. So after they went back and put their calculators to work, they've discovered that, for example, in June, payrolls were down to 209,000 and lowest since 2020. As I recall, that was during the pandemic.
Oh.
Ah,
It's also
so
interesting too, as you said, the calculators, maybe they were using solar powered ones before and they put batteries in now.
it could be, could be. And finally, just for all you warmongers, NATO has approved the use of cluster bombs in Ukraine. NATO thinks that's okay, even though until yesterday, NATO condemned the use of cluster bombs. But when they're being tossed on somebody else, yeah, that's okay. So that's just a quick rundown of the flyby news from beautiful downtown Grand Bend.
That cluster bombing, didn't we used to have that with meetings and
That
federal
was
government?
that's another kind of cluster.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I can't. There could be children listening
Could be.
or
Yeah,
watching, so those adults in the room will understand what cluster we're talking about.
that's right. Yes. I must admit, after retiring, that's one of the few things that I really did miss. I like to sit back and watch.
Did you? So this morning, the news out of Canada, in Toronto per se, is they've had stabbings on the subway, and the new mayor of Toronto thinks that putting social workers on the trains will solve that problem. Now, along with security guards somewhere, but social workers. So, some lunatic running up and down the train with a knife is going to be stopped by a social worker. Halt, please. Think about what you're doing. This is not a good idea. We have a place for you, a safe stabbing place.
Well,
You
we've had
can't
the
make
same out
you
here.
can't make this up.
We've had the same out here where there's been issues of armchair quarterbacks, Monday morning, whatever you want to call them, looking at the situation well after the fact and pontificating and orating on what should have happened, what could have happened. And I guess my answer to that is okay, next time we have an issue like this, let's stop by your house and we'll drop you into the middle of the foray and see how well you can handle it. And then we'll analyze the shit out of that and find out how you could have done it better.
Well,
You
one
know,
of the videos on Twitter, if you watch it, about this deranged guy running up and down the train, the subway in Toronto, is that people are running away in fear of what's going. Not no one is doing anything about it. He's chasing this guy who's bleeding down the length of the train. It's a train is just one big train. There's no,
yeah.
it's not cars connected. It's like a big snake. And if you watch this video done by various passersby, and this is the part that really is interesting, unless you're running up and down away from all this, you're taking videos of it. which is, kind of gruesome in a way, or voyeuristic. Let's just watch this. Maybe I'll get it on YouTube and make some money on it. But the two things jump out at you is that the majority of the people who are running back and forth in the train are women. I don't know why there seem to be very few men on this train except for the two that are being chased with the weapon and the other. It's so dystopian to watch this, and it's on Twitter for anyone who wants to watch this. And like I said this morning, the newly elected mayor of Toronto says, "Well, more social workers will solve the problem." Okay, and she obviously gets her cues from the same people who've tried this out in our American neighbors cities that have similar problems. Let's see Toronto, the urban centers in Canada are simply copycats in this sense of how to solve problems of New York, Portland, Austin, LA. You know, it's
You're
so
right. I mean,
it's just
it,
downstream nonsense.
it goes back to what we were talking about pre-production. The whole place is going to, I don't know where it's going. It's not working out well anyway. Well, are there any adults left in the room? And if so, where are they? And why aren't you speaking up? Surely to goodness, we've got people that are outraged by this, but nobody seems to be acting on it.
No, no, there's something very strange about this. There's no question. I don't. Well, yeah, it's we're living in strange times. Can I
Well,
tell you?
even looking at Border Hawk News, I think I saw it here just a second ago. 78% of people in France think that there's too many migrants. But then on the other side of that, you're looking at in the United States where 300,000 illegal aliens have driver's licenses. Smugglers and truck unit, these Texas Department of Public Safety on a dangerous high-speed chase with dozens of illegal immigrants on board. Illegal migrant sentenced to life for raping and impregnating a 10-year-old. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here that just get addressed, and I don't know who is going to stand up and address the issues.
Uh, Good question. Uh, Look, it's summer, so
Yeah.
weird stuff goes on, right?
Well, yeah, I think that's part of it. You sit back and what was that infamous movie, Dog Days of Summer? It seems to be that's when the heat and the pressures build. I guess I don't know.
Uh, the other one that, on a lighter note, that affects Canada and the U.S., of course, is the Ben and Jerry's controversy. They started off with Ben and Jerry deciding that Canada is a uh, bad place to be because they put out a meme along with their ice cream that, oh, Canada, our home on stolen land, which is supposedly denouncing Canada as some sort of colonial uh, country, still oppressing people. And then they tried the same thing on the 4th of July in the US. Now, curiously, this both Ben and Jerry's originally, they're two guys who've always been activists going way back when they were just selling ice cream in Vermont or wherever the devil the company was originally started up in. and they were very social activists using ice cream as part of their sales pitch on let's change the world. But Ben and Jerry's is not owned by Ben and Jerry anymore. It's owned by Unilever, okay, which is a multi-billion-dollar global corporation. Makes ice cream and soap and all kinds of other stuff. So if you go to the Unilever website, you'll see how many hundreds of companies are attached to Unilever, and the products are pretty wide ranging. So the question you have to ask is, well, why does Unilever suddenly decide it's going to get into this? Because obviously, they're permitting this to go on, and it's got to be coordinated. It wasn't just Ben and Jerry's in Canada going after this. It was Ben
Mhm.
and Jerry's broadly because they used precisely the same thing on the 4th of July, making a lot of Americans not very happy with Ben and Jerry ice cream, like they're not very happy with Bud Light, and they're not very happy with Coles, and you go on and on and on. You kind of wonder, like, what is wrong with these people? And then all of a sudden, when it gets down to dollars and cents, and their product is and their shareholder value drops, well, Shazam! I had no idea. Really?
Yeah, well, corporations are a lot like governments. I mean, they will go along and do something, and when the poop hits the fan, the first thing is to look for a scapegoat,
Yep.
and the second is to try and find, what's the term, culpable deniability. You know?
Yeah. You mean like the cocaine they found in the White House?
Or when you have a leader that stonewalls and delays and appoints friends to study things, and then now blaming opposition for not allowing them to get on with doing the job. I mean,
Even though they could just do it with the stroke of a pen because they have the majority.
yeah,
Ah, let's not name those people because
no, no.
that would be wrong. But more in your neck of the woods, continuing with our roundup of the news, which is really head scratching. The RCMP in Sayward. Where's Sayward in BC?
It's on the island. Yeah,
Okay, they're investigating wildfires on the coast of, oh yeah, Vancouver Island, believing they may have been started intentionally. Shazam. You know, there was a video done from one of the satellites showing these fires that miraculously started all about the same time in Quebec and northeastern Ontario. Like a, it's you just look at it. How, you can't fake this stuff. Okay, so the satellite is watching poof 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 all these fires starting up. There was no electrical storm. Like how this is very strange. And of course, the amount of damage done to the environment and to people's lungs. These people who started these fires, if they're caught, need to really have the full weight of the law come down on them. I don't care whether you're a climate activist or not. This is nonsense. The amount of damage to people, much less the millions of acres that were burned down. But again, why? Where are the adults?
well, I think part and parcel of that is that in this country in particular, I won't paint the brush very broadly. If you stand up or you try and say something, you're immediately branded as an anti this or a racist that or a misogynist or a, and I don't know, when will adults finally have enough of that? I don't know, but at this point everybody just kind of likes to hunker down and stay below the radar, and it's not a very nice analogy or anything, but I don't know that, in my humble opinion, that's the problem.
Look, there's a lot of dark news this week that is coming across our desk. I mean, again, a lot of it's obviously we're focusing a lot on North America. We'll get to other parts in a minute, but there's 83 churches in Canada have been burned, vandalized, or desecrated since this whole business of the residential school discovery, allegedly of graves in Kamloops, BC, and the government doesn't seem to be. in fact, the prime minister said, well, that's really bad, but he understands why people would be like, really? That's your response? And we haven't found who the arsonists are. No one's gone to jail. No one's been in front of a magistrate. 83 churches. Imagine if it was 83 mosques that were torched by people. I mean, I'm sorry to use that as an example. At the
No,
same time, the same bunch of apparently adults have decided that they're going to play hardball with social media companies like Google and what's the other one?
meta.
Meta, Instagram. That they're going to pull advertising from Facebook and those other because they're just so fed up with the way they do stuff in terms of censorship. Really, I mean, first of all, why were you giving these people all this money in the first instance? Okay, like it was apparently it was okay while it was the narrative was in their favor, and then when suddenly it's not in their favor, well, we're going to be really hard on these rogue publishers. Really, yeah,
We're going to pretend that we grew cojones and teach them a lesson.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, and again, money. It's become meaningless, worthless. We in this country, we had a foreign automaker who's decided that they would come here for what was it, $13 billion in tax credits, and the one company that was already there just pulled out because they weren't getting anything. Isn't it amazing that I saw on the news the other day that they're now going to be getting $13 billion?
Oh,
Where's
really?
the money coming from? Well,
Well, there's a machine. Ink goes in, paper goes in, and money comes out.
most people call that an ATM, but
Yeah, except that it's just paper. It's worthless. You know.
yeah.
Eh,
But
anyway,
I don't know. Anyway, it's
it, this should be the episode we talk about. We don't understand anything. This is the we don't understand anything episode.
yeah, and that might resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, it's
We
it's
used to
just
have the head scratcher. Now
a
it's
head
just
scratcher. Yeah, the head scratcher. The we don't understand what the heck is going on. Yeah, it's one of those. I know it's a nice summer day, and there's maybe we should focus on other things.
yeah. Let's see what's positive.
Do, 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 do.
I guess the positive is that it's a nice summer day, and when we're finished with our podcast today, we can go out and enjoy some of that with a beverage of your choice.
Yes, yes. One of the things that we're planning, as you know, is to have some guests amuse our beleaguered viewers and listeners, and we're going to hopefully line up with some of the people that are watchers. As remember, we had Michael Bonet a couple of weeks
Mhm.
ago, and we got a lot of interest from viewers and listeners on that one. And we're looking to, as you know, have a discussion with some of the folks who are kind of like us, retired, but have had long and interesting careers in the border security, border management, immigration business, because after all, that's our niche market here, even though we talk about a whole lot of other things, not just that and specifically. But we're going to hopefully have interviews with some folks who are retired from what's now known as the Canadian Border Service Agency, the Retirement Association folks, and we'll be hopefully getting them here in the next couple of weeks. Setting it up is a little challenging in the summer because people have holidays and so on, but also to get the story together because it's got to also be of interest to our listeners and viewers. But
Mhm.
that's one of the things we have teed up, as you know.
And we also have our Leo liaison was talking about an individual that has written a book on uh, post-traumatic stress and the like.
Yes, yes,
So that would be interesting to get
we
on.
have that. And then looking to see if we can find someone to, well, we know who the person is, but I don't want to name him yet because the response hasn't come back. But this is someone who's very much involved in monitoring the whole migration phenomena from South America through the Darien Gap and up into the U.S. And we're talking literally millions of people. Uh, and we've reached out to him, and we're waiting to see if we can get him on board. One of the things that I find interesting is the medium of social media podcasting is really given everybody an opportunity to go deep into issues that the mainstream media doesn't even talk about. Uh, so we have lots of similar col- collaborators, if you like, who talk about the same thing. The other day I was on Rumble looking at the number of different podcasts that really are just burgeoning in numbers, but very interesting and sophisticated discussion on just about anything to do with our sort of world of politics and economics and science even, which
Mhm.
is the when you look at how the old style media like terrestrial broadcasters or the TV networks are failing. If you look at the Tucker Carlson thing, it just shows
Mhm.
beyond a doubt that the old style of journalism of inquisitive of investigation, it's failing
Mhm.
in remarkably.
Well, part of that, I think, is the fact that there doesn't seem to be any impartiality in the news. They all have their point and they all want to support this or drive that, or as opposed to doing what the journalists of old used to do is say, this is the story. These are the facts that we've garnered, and you make up your own mind, or you do what you have to do. But we don't have a horse in this race. Let's just present what we see. And
Well, I suppose we could be
agencies.
accused somewhat of the same thing because obviously we challenge conventional thinking, and some folks might say, well, yeah, but you have a right of center view on things, which is, in my case, I'm not ashamed to say that I'm not a lefty. Okay, so that's fine. But
Mhm.
it's not that's not to say that everything that would come out of the left of center crowd is wrong, is unacceptable or
No,
wrong,
no,
because to say that would mean that you're so narrow-minded that you can't have a discussion unless you have some kind of exchange of ideas. But these legacy organizations that we speak of, whether it's print media or broadcast media, they just don't get it. I don't think they really get it.
no. And you're right. I mean, I don't consider myself left, right, center. I'm all over the map. I mean, some days I think that Attila the Hun's a bleeding heart liberal. And on the other side of that, there's days when I think Mahatma Gandhi is is maybe perhaps a bit too
Naive.
maybe I don't know.
Yeah. Well, this is the point that I'm looking at the way in which ideas they call it the marketplace of ideas. It doesn't exist via the CNNs or the CBCs or the BBCs of the world. And how did they get there? Well, there's plenty of places you can get arguments left and right on that. We don't need to go into that, but I'm concerned, for example, whether the things that we do here, just as two old guys, kicking the can around, how long that's going to be permitted when you look at the way legislation is being passed, particularly in this country, to restrict, what you say, because somebody somewhere is going to be offended. That's suddenly that makes it, as you said, you get labeled, and next thing you know, you may find that the ISP is told not to carry your program, you know. And it's not like we make money on this thing. This is the part that gets me, where uh, why would they be going after just folks who are expressing an opinion or asking questions? I think the part that really drives these guys out of their minds is you're asking questions they don't want to answer. I don't think it's so much what your position is. It's
No,
that you is that they don't want to come clean on just exactly what they
but
are doing and
yeah.
why they are doing it.
Well, we've talked about that before with the analogy with the magician. Right? They want to control a narrative where they want you looking at this hand. Well, over here, there's something else going on, right? I
Sure.
mean, and part and parcel of that is if you start asking questions, more and more people are going to be saying, maybe there's something to this. Like, what's actually going on? Why aren't we concentrating on factor B? That when it seems so obvious, that's where the issue or the problems are.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
I think the most recent classic example of this versus this was what was going on in France last week. If you didn't have internet links to other sources of news, basically filmed by citizen journalists, or access to media in France, you wouldn't know that there was anything going. I mean, literally, there was practically no reporting in North America of
mhm,
5,000 cars being burned, 43,000 cops on the street trying to put down literally what looked like a looming civil war, and which if you start to look at the root causes there and where they are, this is serious trouble that France is in. And as is, and the contagion was spreading to the rioting into the Benelux countries and even into Switzerland, which has the same pattern of why the people are out on the street. You know,
mhm.
and so the media in this part of the world clearly didn't want to put too much or any sort of reporting on it because, wow, maybe the precursors to the problems in France exist here as well.
Yeah, that's true. And then weren't you mentioning also pre-reduction that France has now had a bill or had some kind of special arrangement where police and prosecutors can go in and turn your phone camera
Yes,
on?
yeah, just it's yes, they can tell the phone companies to they literally eavesdrop on you. So you can do what you like with your phone and say, no, I'm not going to be tracked. Well, the only way you're not going to be tracked is if you take the battery out of your phone and you flush your phone down the toilet. Because the way the digital setup is with
Yeah.
this, they can, you cannot escape this. So much for privacy protection and so on. Because if you have a dictatorial regime in one of these countries, can you imagine if during the 30s the guy with the mustache had this technology?
Well, that's true. But I guess it goes with that is that, well, if you have nothing to worry about, who cares?
Oh, that's nonsense.
But
I'm
the
sorry.
whole issue then is that, well, me, like, I don't, would they find anything really interesting if they want to monitor my telephone or my cell phone? But then you get into the Orwellian issues, like who's determining what's good and what's bad, you know?
Well, if
Uh,
someone doesn't like what you're saying,
mhm,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Uh, then they can make something up.
And no real judicial oversight, no sober second thought on that whole issue. It's just, well, we found this and we did this, and yeah.
Look, this is like Minority Report, the movie, where people were being set up for things they might do.
Mhm.
Okay. They might be thinking about saying nasty things about the dear leader. And if you do that, you could be going to Crowbar Hotel or worse. So,
Mhm.
modern gulags are very much possible.
Mhm.
And, you don't want to dwell on
I
it
don't
too
want to
much, but
fearmonger this, but
look,
again, maybe it's one of these impetuses to get the adults in the room to stand up and start looking at this. I don't know.
when we're lied to so much, and it is, this thing that I reported about earlier, that the very people in our Western military say, "Oh, don't use cluster bombs because that's just illegal." Okay, and they go ahead and do it anyway, openly. You know, I mean, evidently the war isn't going well, so now we're going to throw away all convention. How about we, and you've got there was this idiotic thing on the news yesterday. Again, it was on Twitter, but it was Zelensky saying, well, maybe NATO should do a preemptive nuclear strike on Russia. And I'm thinking, are you out of your mind? And they're actually putting this out there as well. But, that
Yeah.
could solve the problem.
Well, again,
Wow.
that kind of goes back down to they made a movie about that.
Yeah, the
It's like
movies.
Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Why would we want to take all those little bits of DNA and recreate dinosaurs? We've had four movies to say that it doesn't end well.
Yes.
Uh, Preemptive nuclear strike, War Games with Matthew Broderick comes to
Yes.
mind. You know,
Yes. And then you said the computer says we don't want to play anymore.
I can't. There's no win in this.
Yeah. Well, wasn't that the whole business of the, well, we're really going to elevate this in our last minute. We're in the strategic arms limitation talks, and the whole mutual assured destruction debate was it. Nobody wins on this one. It's checkmate back and forth. They'll stop this
Mhm.
kind of stupid talk. But
Yeah,
when you start seeing our side say, "Oh, cluster bombs are okay," well, maybe the tactical nuclear weapon. Like, where does this stop? These people are lunatics. They're loose, you know.
yeah,
And then we're down to less than a minute, Bob.
yes. So on a positive note to end this, which beverage of choice are you going to go and soak up the sun with?
I think Jack and I will warm up together.
Yeah, well,
Jackie D.
I think I might be going to look. Well, it's a little early here, obviously, but I might be taking a look to go down to one of the Glens and see if I can have a little sip of that.
Okay. Got to sign off now, Bob. We're running out of
Yeah,
time. I'll see you next week.
you bet. Take care. Have fun.
Stay well, stay safe.